This is exercise lesson 7, exercise number 1. I'll try and demo that for you guys. So basically, I'm going to teach you the multipad command to make this part. I'll start from scratch, make the part body the in-work object. We will sketch on the XY plane. It has horizontal going up and down, and vertical going side to side, which is odd to me. So I guess in France that's horizontal and vertical, but in America horizontal is side to side. So we're gonna find our view and hit normal to view, and that will flip the horizontal to go horizontal and the vertical to go vertical, but the horizontal is in the negative direction. So I'll hit normal to view again, and I'm going to create a rectangle, and the width is 6 and the height is 6, and I automatically get a constraint when I double click on that, or when I enter the parameters in the palette. I'm going to create a couple holes on the inside and another hole, yeah, right about there. And what I'm going to do is make that construction element. So I'm going to turn off the circles, make this curve a construction element. So I'm going to get circles around that piece, and I'm going to make sure that I'm getting the circle to highlight in blue and that little coincident symbol. That way when I create my circle, I know I'm going to be linked to that circle in there, and I see that little coincident in there. Select circle, and we're going to do that 4 times. You got to make sure that highlights so that you know they're linked. What that does is when I create a dimension to this, I'm controlling the circles to be in the coincident to that reference. Oh, I missed. See what happens? I missed the bottom one. I wasn't paying attention. Let's recreate that circle. Oh, did that? I didn't see that symbol. I did not get the symbol to come up. So we got to get that concentric symbol to come in. When you click on that point, there, that symbol right there. So now when I create that circle, you get that concentricity. And then when I create the dimension or the constraint and I make that 5, it knows to follow all the way around. Okay, I'll put that back to 4, and let's see if we can't just auto constrain the rest of this, and we'll stack dimension. No, what am I thinking? I need to create an axis from here to here, an axis from here to here. I want to dimension everything symmetrically. So we will go back to auto constrain, highlight all that. Notice I didn't grab my axes. They're my references. Also, I'm going to hold symmetry because I built this part symmetrical. It'll hold it symmetrical. And I think we're done. One thing you can do just to verify it is you can apply anchors. And if the sketch analysis tells you it's fully constrained, you know you're good to go. I have a hard time reading the numbers though when I leave them like that. So you can adjust your numbers and move them out, and then you can modify the values to whatever you need. Now I could set the axis to be in the center, or I could set the axis to be on this edge. It doesn't matter which way you go. It just all depends on how it is you're doing your design. So even though I use this and this center line as my anchors, I didn't have any issues with setting this and this as my datums or putting those on my local axis. For this particular example, I am going to delete those last two anchors, and I find it easier just to grab them off the tree and hit delete. Let's go back to coincident these lines to the you know what, I'm gonna coincident this line to this one, and coincident this one to this one, and I'll double check everything in the analysis. One thing I didn't mention is I made that a reference because it's not going to be actual any of my part, but it is a construction circle that I'm going to use to constrain and control the distance of the circles or these holes from the center. With this part fully constrained, we can go ahead and exit out of the sketch, and we're going to use the multi-pad option. So under model, under pad is multi-pad. So I'll choose multi-pad, and I'm just going to modify the first one and hit preview just to see what it looks like. All the inner domains will automatically be hollowed out. So it's hard to tell sometimes which number is which. Now with this created, I can see that's number 4, number 5, number 2. So it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7 on the inside. What I could do is just change it a value for number 6 and preview it and see which one that is. So number 6 was the inner domain, the smallest one. You see 6 and 7 are right on top of each other. It's hard to tell which is which. It used to be clear. It used to come out on more on the edges. So I just change a value, preview that, see what it looks like. So really what you got is all the elements, every closed element, every circle here is its own little pad, and you're padding each one whatever depth you want. So the 4 holes I have no pad, so that's why there's no material inside the holes. Then that little hole on the inside of this piece, I padded it up, but when I padded the outside circle above that, it knew to hollow out that inside. And that is how I built this particular part. For more clarification, I'll go back into the sketch and talk more about the sketch. I'll just undo this part, and we'll pop back into our sketch. Delete this whole thing. Again, I don't know why the horizontal is vertical, so we got to flip that twice to get that in a normal orientation, at least for me, and then go to rectangular pattern. And so how I did that is in the tool palette, I keyed in the values, and when you key in the value, it'll automatically constrain the outside profile. And then I created my holes on the inside, like so. And then I created the one I wanted to use as a reference. And that had to be a construction element. So I turn off circle and make that a construction element. So that's just there so I can create my other 4 circles. Alright, now another way to create those circles is I could use this rotate command. Okay, so you're looking for a command called rotate. It's under the mirror option, the down arrow for the mirror option, this one here. You got to hit the black down arrow and find rotate. This one works pretty cool, but I've seen people use this and not manipulate it. And the first thing it does is it hides it on you. If you have an action pad up, for some reason it hides it under the action pad. I have no idea why it does that, but the first step is to go find that. Now, I have the circle highlighted. It knows it's going to rotate that circle. What it's asking for is the center point in the palette. It wants to know, well, where do you want to rotate it about? What's the axis of rotation? This is my axis of rotation right here. And I know it's going to snap correctly because I got that blue dot in the center letting me know it's concentric to these circles. So I go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to use a 90-degree angle and hit tab, and you'll notice that I have an instance of one and it's already created one. A lot of people just go in and type 4 because they want 4, but if I had 2, I've got 2 plus the original, 3 plus the original. If you add the fourth one, that's 2 on top of each other, and it causes all kinds of havoc when you're trying to create your solid. So I'd be cautious of that. CATIA is not real consistent. Sometimes it wants you to do 4 for a total. Sometimes it wants you to do how many more you want. So in this case, under the sketch workbench, when it comes to using the circular pattern, you want to give it how many additional instances, not total. So I'm using 3 more. Now, the internal external links is supposed to keep that linked up. Okay, so if I don't have them turned on, I say okay, it won't follow through with any constraints. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to recreate that circle. And this time I'm going to make sure I got that coincident on. Now, watch out because that blue line on the vertical is trying to link up to it. I'm going to try and slide it around so I'm not. Oh, I don't trust that. Undo. Try and create another circle. I'll start here. Okay, get that one there. It's like that. And then I'm going to go right to constrain, and I'm going to constrain that. So if I have that constrained, that's weird. If I have that constrained, whatever this constraint is going to duplicate it. It should duplicate my coincidences and the diameter. So let's try that out. I'll use that rotation again. I want to rotate this circle. Again, it's hiding under my palette. I already have an instance of 3 because that's what I used last time. This is my circle I want to rotate, and this is the center point I want to revolve around. I got to key in the angle again. I'll do an angle of 90 and hit tab. We want to turn on these links. Okay, so when I hit OK, I'm supposed to see those coincidences show up. I got the dimensions to show up, but I'm not getting my coincidence to show up. So you would think no big deal, but I try and create a circle. Or sorry, I'm going to try and force the coincident. So I choose coincident, and I'm going to put my cursor there. I'm going to wait a second. I'm going to try and find that point that's in the center. When I grab the point, it doesn't take it. So I should be able to select that point and then select this curve, but now it's waiting for me to select something else because it didn't take the point even though it looked like it got the point. Again, I'll put my cursor there and see if I can get the point to show up. I'll try and re-click on that, and it won't put in that coincident. So back in the day, I used to rotate them around and then coincident after the fact, but it doesn't do it. And the problem is I'm going to throw on a constraint for this circle. And if you recall last time when I changed the value, all the circles knew to grow with that and stay coincident to my reference circle, but only the one I created the first time would go. So it's that's a little bit of an issue. And what I can do here is I can delete it. Or let's just leave it in here. I'm going to try and auto constrain this now. I got to put my axes in there, so we do it like I did last time. Now, when you do an auto constraint, the first thing it does is it looks to do coincidences, concentricity. It does all the geometrical constraints first. So I will put that flat to the screen here. Whoops. I'm going to auto constrain. So when I auto constrain this, oh, did I erase my? I think I erased my vertical axis. When I auto constrain this and reference those same datums, stack symmetry these here, stack dimension it, select OK. See what it does is it gives me these measurements to the holes. And I had that, I didn't mean to have that in there. Let's try that again. I'm going to highlight all that. I don't want my axes to be part of it. It's not part of my part. So we'll auto constrain that. And I'm going to reference those axes so it'll dimension everything from the center. I will use this as symmetrical to try and hold symmetry. And I will stack dimension it, just to see if it's working. I'll just quickly throw an anchor on there and do a sketch analysis. So it says it's all constrained, which is great. But now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to try and change. Oh, hey, it caught it. Well, it caught that one. I don't know, maybe it didn't. I think it caught it to that line. I'm going to change this constraint to 5 again. Oh, it looks like it did catch it. Okay, so I was able to get that to work. I don't know why we couldn't manually constrain it, but I was able to get it to work on an auto constraint because, again, auto constrain, the first thing it does is it tries to set all the geometrical constraints first. So I'll pull up my preferences, and under Sketcher, I have geometrical constraints and dimensional constraints turned on. And what are those when I hit Smart Pick? All of these are geometrical constraints. Geometrical constraints have symbols and no values. A dimensional constraint has a value and a geometrical constraint does not. So with that all set, when I do my auto constraint, that's what it's going to look for first. It'll apply all of those and then add dimensional constraints after the fact. So as you saw, I changed this to 4.5, and we can exit out, go to multi-pad. Again, I change this to 1 and preview that. All the inner domains are automatically hollowed out. If you want to fill them in, you can. I could have made pins stick out for each one of these. I used to be able to control and grab multiple ones and do them all at the same time. I can't do it. I gotta do them all one at a time. So if I make these 2 and hit preview, you see I've got pins instead of holes. Okay, and then number 6, I'll make that 4 and make this one 2 and preview that, and then I got a part that looks like that instead. Okay, so that was my example on how to use the multi-pad, how to properly constrain this profile so that you're dimensioning everything from the center to hold symmetry, how to use that rotate command in the sketch work environment. Hopefully this video will help you out, and when you're done with this, you can move on to the next exercise.